Okay, we have a case submitted for an implant plan on tooth number 8 and tooth number 9. So I would like to go ahead and walk through a couple of things on here. But before we walk through the actual implant plan, um, one of the nice benefits of the CEREC integration is we're able to do a virtual wax up here, and we can see that there's been a nice wax up done here. I may question, terms of the width of this tooth is greater than the width of this tooth. Does this midline need to be moved over a little bit? Different things like that. And truthfully, they do affect the plan a little bit, okay? But more what I'm concerned about here or questioning is the actual location of the gingival margin as they're drawn. So if we take a pen here and I draw the proposed gingival margins based on where they're at now, what I'm noticing is that it seems to me that if we go based on the traditional model of where the gingival margin should be, the central should be the level of the canines, we would want this to be just like so. And what we're seeing here is our gingival margin for the centrals has been drawn there. So my question is, this gingival margin will determine the depth of the implant. So my first question is this the true gingival margin that we want it to be at, or is this just drawn incorrectly? Because again, as we can see here, this doesn't look exactly right. So my assessment would be that we would actually want the gingival margin to be, let me just draw it here in green, we would want the gingival margin on these particular teeth to be more along that line like that, okay? And that will determine, make a difference in terms of where we're planning. So let's make the assumption that the gingival margin is correct as drawn. So now let's go ahead and take a look at a plan for tooth number 8. And my first assessment here is that we are way too close to the buccal plate here. Way too close. In fact, I would question whether or not this portion of the implant it's outside of the bone. So I would look in looking at this, and let me just duplicate this plan real quick. My assessment would be that this implant is not actually in the bone totally, or that this scan has been taken before the bone has fully ossified here. So based on what I'm seeing here, I would probably plan this implant like so. What this would do is a couple of things. One is that it would give me more space here, which what I want. Two, it would decrease my risk of this coming outside of the bone right here. And then three, it's going to give me a better screw retained position here. So as I look through this here, I can see that my screw access hole is going to go perfectly through the cingulum. And then remember I taught us that one way of seeing how tall the tie base is going to be on here is right here to go view customize, and instead of 15 millimeters we can change this to 6 millimeters, and then we can see that's where our tie base is going to go to. Okay, so we can not worry about the tie base getting into occlusion there. Okay. So other than that, I'm pretty pleased with this design right here. My bigger question is going to be, is this tooth wider than this tooth? But that's pinching hairs a little bit here. So there we go. The next thing we'll do is we'll look at tooth number 9, and my first assessment here will be to go ahead and parallel it to number 8, which we have done here, and then I'm going to say that this implant is definitely way too close here. So either we're going to need to do some significant bone grafting, or we're going to need to move the implant here like so, and even then it's still too thick. So I would maybe consider going to a narrow implant, or I would consider doing some ridge splitting here, or uh, using expanders when I do my osteotomy. So what I would do here is probably drill a 2 millimeter osteotomy, maybe a 2.5 millimeter osteotomy, and then I expand my ridge out to, instead of removing bone to place the implant, I'm actually expanding the ridge out, creating more space here. But restoratively, I find that this to be a better position, like so, because now we can do a screw retain restoration. The access hole is totally out of the way, and everything from here. Now again, if this were if we were correct in saying that this was our gingival margin, we would want this implant to be 3 millimeters below that. So that would put putting this implant right here. And that's why I believe that our implant is planned, our prosthetics are planned incorrectly here. So based on this prosthetic plan, this implant is placed too shallow. But again, I'm not convinced that this prosthetic plan is correct. So hopefully this makes sense. I would encourage you to adjust the prosthetic plan in this case and to remeasure your implant placements and then come back with a new plan here. Thank you very much.